I promise you, I'm going to be done in 10 seconds. I think we're good. What was I saying? See, I said I was a teacher. One of the things you have to do as a teacher is you teach kids based on where they are, not what you are, not based on where you are as a teacher. You don't teach kids stuff because you assume they would understand it, or you assume they must have learned some things. I mean, even if you started out assuming, wisdom demands that you pause at a particular point and then you ask them really, like, now once you discover that they don't understand that stuff, it doesn't mean they cannot understand it. They just don't. So if you want to teach them, you teach them knowing where they are, then you bring them up. Right? You bring them up. You have to find a way to, to discover where they are academically. You may have to give them tests. You ask questions in class. You ask the supervisor or the school owner or the proprietor or headmistress, headmaster, or all those things. Now, when it comes to ethnicity, you study the ethnicity. Where is this group at this point? Not if I'm here, they're also here because we're all in one Nigeria. That is nonsense. We are not. We have vastly different understandings of what culture looks like. Therefore, knowing what we know, which hopefully we're not going to get into right now, unless of course I have to. The person that can make me get into it already muted him because we'll just around the comment section. Let me just check it, please. I promise you I'll concentrate in a second. All right, where were we? I don't want to spend time to talk about their culture, because that's not to this conversation. It's really to get us to understand where we are coming from. So I was saying that we also sometimes, I wrote something on X responding to a statement by someone, and I said, we don't rate our forebears, we don't rate our ancestors. And there's this very funny thing where we think that, I mean, every generation must be better than the previous one, right? But that doesn't mean there's nothing to learn from the past. The idea that you see people go to places and you have to write exams or different places, it's not new to the Yoruba mind. Why? Because it was open, and I was saying earlier, I remember where I stopped before we had to take a break on YouTube, that we had created a place that everybody wanted to come to, right, in the 11th century. And it was there for 400 years. It was like that. And one person, right, wrote an account of what happened, in 1352. He didn't even get to Ife. He was Moroccan. He had traveled to Mali, and then they told him about this place, this people, this king, and what the place was like. And he said to him, they said, I'm going to read to you from the Yoruba, a new history by Akinwumi Ogundiran. Okay? They said their sultan, that was the king, is one of the greatest sultans. They said their sultan, that was the king, is one of the greatest sultans. Ile-Ife was the largest urban center, the biggest emporium, and the wealthiest political
in West Africa's rainforest belt south of the Niger River during the mid-14th century, with more than 2 centuries of trading contact with the Western Sudan. On account of this fact, so basically they're saying that in for about 2-3 centuries, right? They already had contact in the 11th century. This is the 14th century. So they've had contact with these people, and they are saying that at that time, in the mid-14th century, it was the wealthiest polity in West Africa's rainforest. When you see Western Sudan, don't think of Sudan, the country that you are seeing right now. I think I say this thing every time. When you see Sudan, don't. When you see Ethiopia, don't think of Ethiopia that we have right now. What you have right now called Ethiopia originally is actually Abyssinia. Ethiopia is an older name. The people here in Ethiopia who were in that Ethiopia, but Ethiopia is actually bigger than the Ethiopia you have now. Okay? The same way Sudan is bigger than the Sudan that you have right now. Sudan encompasses just about everywhere that blacks lived. So Sudan is black. So Bilad al-Sudan is land of the blacks. That's from the perspective of the Arabs. So different cultures will give us different names. So the Arabs call us Sudan. The Portuguese call us Guinea. It means black. Right? The French will say Niger. From Latin, Niger. English also say Niger. Nigeria, Niger is all black. Okay? So all of this is just black from different perspectives. Niger, Niger, Guinea, Sudan is black. Different cultures look from there. So when you say Western Sudan, it doesn't mean that the western part of the country.
Different places. Some of them to trade, some of them, went to. I mean, if you hear that somewhere it happened, you go go there now, like Lagos now. Lagos are trying to from different places. Why? Because they share like that. That's exactly the same thing. People will move into that place because they find opportunities, right? They're going. So yeah, you're attracting from different places, and I mean, this thing we're talking about. I think I should find it. No, let me find the exact date. I want to.
Tuta was informed during his visit to Mali about a powerful black pagan kingdom to the south called Yufi, which he described as one of the most considerable countries of the Sudan. So if it will be part of the Sudan, Ibadan will be Sudan, Sokoto will be Sudan, as a matter of fact, South Africa will be Sudan. It says because black. If a frame spread far and wide, in 1352, Ibn Battuta was informed during his visit to Mali about the powerful black pagan kingdom to the south called Ufe. It's Ufe, Yufi, Ife, which it is described as one of the most considerable countries of the Sudan, and their sultan, one of the greatest sultans, that's the king. He goes on further.
White man probably refers, probably meaning Arabs or Berbers. If it was almost certainly Yufi, I think we continue right. Ife was the largest suburban. I already read that. So the idea basically is that some historians have said the Malians probably said that to Ibn Battuta in order to discourage them from going into that place because they were trading with the same people that they're talking about. They were trying to, discourage them from having access to Ife because at the time, Shegi, Inu were the major exports from Ife.
It must be intentional, you know. I'm going to read different sources actually. This is going to help. Let's start with this one. I'm going to read from the book I mentioned, History of the Yoruba by Stephen Banji Akintoye. By the 9th century, 9th means 800 AD, the 800s. This is the 2000s now. This is 2025, 2000. So,
9th century, this was a center of very prosperous agriculture. Such healthy agricultural production stimulated the growth of population. The traditions to the effect that new Agboede were always being built in all the Ife settlements by the beginning of the Oduduwa Revolution